Okay, I do believe that we are live.
We are live.
What the heck? Anyway.
We're not memorized.
No, one of my screens just did a thing. Anyway, pull up a stool to the Gordox pub, where every sip fuels the imagination.
For every what?
Sip.
Oh, sip. Okay. Well, I've got a couple of fans in my ear, so it sounded like you said every cent.
Yeah, sure.
And I was like, well, that's a double entendre, isn't it?
Yeah, that kind of is.
Especially when it's spoken.
Yeah.
Because you don't know, whether it's
a penny or yeah.
Some sense fuel imagination. It can be argued that some smells definitely activate the brain or activate the imagination anyway.
Yep.
Or the daydreaming factor, or however you want to put it. All right. Page 3.
By the way, did you see what I posted on Facebook today?
Depends.
How many
things did you post on Facebook?
It's one post with 2 pictures.
It's about driving?
Yes.
Yep. Well, that's why I asked, because I shit post, I guess, a little bit.
Oh, did you?
Well, I guess I don't really shit post. I'm not trying to piss people off, but I do post things I find funny.
Oh.
Which could piss a lot of people off, and I don't really care, but, I posted that thing about, can you lick the science?
Oh, yeah. That was funny, by the way. I enjoyed that. Chemistry. No!
Right? No. Stay the fuck away from the chemist. No licking the chemist.
Yeah, I'm kind of proud of myself as a dad, because if I had done what my son had done, I'm not sure I'd ever would have survived to get my license. And
I've seen the picture of the lawn. All I was thinking when I saw that was, is this my cousin Vinny? Posi traction.
I don't know what. We came to this stop, and he had to turn right, and he kind of goes around the curve, and then just he just drove in up onto the curb. Just oh goodness. And I didn't realize how badly I was holding my breath until we got home, and I was like, because I wasn't getting the air I needed. I had to use my inhaler just for, I was like, oh gosh. But I thought the whole thing was fun. Once I was not scared, I just thought it was funny. And because it wasn't like it was intentional. It wasn't like you did anything on purpose. You just that's where he is on his skill level, and that's okay. You're going to have those things. But I'm pretty certain either one of my parents would have just flipped the switch over something like that. So I'm just glad I could be like, okay, you did that wrong.
How patient over Amanda I found I was when my oldest was, trying to learn to drive.
Yeah.
I should say first was because he still hasn't gotten his license, and he's gotten tickets and everything else. he's just too lazy to finish out. You know, it's like he doesn't want to. I guess he's afraid of the test or something.
Well,
it could also be that like he doesn't have his own car. His girlfriend's the one that has the car.
I saw a thing in the last couple of weeks. There was an article about how Indiana has the lowest passing rate on their driving test. Like, not the driving portion, the written portion. And I've taken that test twice. Once when I was 16 and once when we moved back to Indiana from Vegas.
Yes.
And I think they made it. They started asking questions like, how many feet do you have to allow for a semi to stop if it's going? It's like, really? Like, never once am I going to sit there and do that kind of computation in my head while driving and worrying about the semi that's behind me.
Well, it's kind of that it's kind of smart to think that way when you're taking the test, because then when you realize, even if you're not computing, you're like, well, this guy really does have to have X amount of time to slow down, because rigs can't stop on a dime, and a lot of people treat it like that. They drive like assholes and fucking cut.
There's a different way. Like if that's what you're really getting at on the test, there's a better way of writing that test. There's a lot easier ways of writing.
I'm sure that there is a better way of writing the test. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, I think that might be part of the reasoning.
Oh, I'm sure it is, but there were other things on there. It's like, this is needlessly, for as many drivers as you're going to have, and you know that other states don't have the same kind of test, so why in the world are we making ours so hard when you got people from all over the world driving through Indiana?
Huh?
Oh yeah, you get truck drivers from Mexico, from Canada.
I'm just wondering, why is it relevant?
Well,
where the drivers are from?
It's not, because it's not a universal test. See, it's Indiana's test that's hard to pass, not that Indiana drivers are stupid.
Oh, I didn't say Indiana drivers were stupid. I just said that it wasn't stupid to say you need X amount of room for a rig to slow down. That's what I'm saying. Like, better that somebody consider that you have to have that knowledge, even if you don't really have to have that knowledge, than for someone to not consider that they have to have that knowledge. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but there are better ways of getting to that idea. And the test should not be where you
always suggest them, because
they're not going to listen to me.
What necessarily would be a better idea? We don't know until you start. You know.
Well, that's just like, when I had to take driver's ed when I was 16, they taught us quick and easy things that you can do to make sure, like, you're not tailgating and that kind of stuff. And it's not to do calculations in your head, or at least not complex ones. Like, okay, you weigh this much and you're going that fast, so it's going to take, you have this much braking power. You're never going to figure that out. So instead, it was like, all right, generally speaking, you need to make sure you can. I think it was count to two. Like, if you can count to two, like if they pass the stop sign, if they pass the speed limit sign. When you pass it, it should be at least 2 seconds in between.
Well, that depends on how fast you're going, though, because that's subjective. It's like here.
If you would like to do the calculations in real time while you're driving, go ahead. But or you can use a rule of thumb and say, you know what, generally speaking, if
Right.
it's any closer than that,
you can use a rule of thumb, but counts are hard to do because somebody can count faster or slower. What I'm saying is, like, they have a rule of thumb here too. Like when you turn, why am I not focusing? Like when you put your blinker on to turn, it's supposed to be 50 feet. The way you judge 50 feet is by about a telephone pole's length. From one to the other, from one pole to another is about 50 feet. So it doesn't matter if it's 2 seconds or 1 second or whatever. You have an idea of a visual reference, I guess is what I'm saying. Like the 2 second thing, it's so subjective to 1,000, 2,000. That's not even, not even if somebody else is like 1,000, 2,000. That's quite a bit of difference in real time. I was saying it. He said that you messaged him. Sure did. Yep, sure did. Yeah, anyway. If you have a rough guess on how many feet something is and a visual reference for what that 50 feet is, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's generally 50 feet between two telephone poles. Then you're not stopping and doing calculations. You're just kind of guessing telephone pole length, which is a lot easier to me. Probably Amanda, it'd be easier just to do the calculation because she's a math head and I'm not. And I do understand what you're saying. Like, it's kind of hard to tell them. But if you tell them and you pound it into their head, maybe they're going to find something spatially equivalent, right?
Okay. But it seems like it's still bad testing. Like, I don't... It's not the point of the test. And that's one of those things, it's like, you need to make sure you're actually... Like, when you're writing test questions...
what's the point of the test?
Well, the test is to make sure you can drive, that you have the skills and the knowledge that are necessary so that you don't kill somebody. And I'm sorry, but that particular type of knowledge that requires you to, start thinking about, there are variables you don't even know because you don't know how much the truck weighs, and it's a bad test question. You can write it better than that. That it's, for example, you don't want people going over and because trucks need more time to slow down. Okay, so you can ask a question: which one of the following is going to take the longest to slow down? And provide some of the basic information. That's a way of, do you know that a truck's going to take longer? And you can even put as one of the options, they're all the same, or you can put qualifiers in if you want to make it a little trickier. But in the end, you're not asking someone to do a computation that you're not actually going to ask them to do while driving. You're testing knowledge in a way that they're going to use, so it's actually a valid test question. And Indiana is just god awful at writing test questions. I might be biased though. I've seen plenty of state tests from Indiana, and they're generally terrible. Like, I would tell my AP students, because they always, because AP is so hard, and I'm like, yeah, but College Board, the people who run AP, they want you to do well. And I never got that feeling from Indiana. They never seem to want you to do well. It's like, nah, it's better if you fail. Which you can kind of tell by every time they have to roll out a new test, you can watch as scores go up. When they get to a certain point where people are doing really well, it's time for a new test, and then the scores go down again. And the only reason why you do that is because you keep moving the goalpost, because it's a political thing and a money thing, which those might be the same two things.
Those are generally not far behind each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. North Carolina had some stupid ass questions too. And some of them had wrong answers.
Nice.
Like if you're from North Carolina, don't try to quiz someone from any other northern state on how you should drive in snow or on ice. Because you get 2 weeks of cold per year.
Right.
And your ice is freezing rain. And granted, freezing rain can fuck some shit up. Especially if it's like melt, freeze, you know. But that's Wednesday here. It's like it's almost more than half the year. Definitely, there's a chance of snowing or rain or freezing rain. Or
that's one of those things I always thought.
We have days that the weatherman should just say it's going to be biblical because it's snow, it's hail, it's rain. Next is frogs. And
when I worked in Madison, Indiana, I was always kind of surprised at how quick all the schools would close if it snowed or anything. And I never quite understood why that was until I got caught out. I was driving from Louisville to Madison and started freezing rain, and we're up in the hills, and there were a couple times I was not sure I was going to be able to get up the road. And I was like, oh, it's not that they can't drive. It's just that if it's all hilly, it's a lot harder to climb that hill.
Right.
Well, in northern Indiana, it's all flat. Like, it's rare that you can't get it. I mean, you haven't got a few hills, but nothing like if you're starting to get into Appalachia.
Right. Definitely.
Of course, when I was in Vegas and anytime it rained, it was like you would think that they somehow, like, no one knew how to drive in the rain. It's like, it's a little rain, people. Let's go. But, you know, I still would say 465 around Indianapolis, that has trained me to be I wouldn't say I'm aggressive, but I can be. So I get kind of annoyed with timid drivers normally.
I don't know if I would say that I'm annoyed with timid drivers. Like today, I'm coming home from physical therapy and somebody cut me off, right?
Yeah.
I don't mind if you cut me off and then get to the speed limit. If you cut me off in slow motion, then it kind of pisses me off. I can't go around. I have to put on the brakes or come to a full stop because you're an idiot. You know what I mean? It's different if somebody, whips out. If they don't whip out like literally almost scratching the nose in my car, then I've got plenty of time to easily let them catch up to speed. But if they pull in and they don't try to catch up to speed, like yeah, what the fuck are you doing? That annoys me. There's some types of driving like that do annoy me, but
there's a trend around here to have people like to roll through stop signs so they can get in front of you and then go slow. It's like if you were in such a hurry to get through that stop sign, you couldn't actually stop. Go. Like, I don't care if you're in front of me, just go. You know? Or stop when you're supposed to so I could have stayed in front of you. In fact, quite frankly, I prefer when I have someone in front of me who's going. And, you know, I like bear bait. It's all fun.
People, I'm telling you. I don't think it. I think that it's not driving. It's people. I think that it's like when you say gun violence. It's bullshit. It's not guns, anything. It's violence.
Yeah.
If you don't have a gun, it'd still be violence. If they didn't have a car, they'd still be idiots. They'd still do some shit. They'd pull out in front of you a fucking bike. They just do stupid shit because that's who they are, right?
Yeah.
I just it's amusing for me to think of, because otherwise it just kind of piss you off to think about it, right? You either got to laugh or get mad.
Oh, God. So, you know how I normally say that the camera where it is actually, like, my screen is under my desk and I look through glass, right? Well, that's what I do.
I don't know if I do that. I know that you look up at a big screen, right?
Yeah, that's the one that's on top of the desk, and then my actual laptop screen is below, but if I put the StreamYard up on the big screen, it doesn't look like I'm looking at the camera. So, anyway, there's a scratch in my desktop, and it looked like I had like one of the biggest, like, just wrinkles right across my forehead. I was like, oh my God! Like the bottomy looking scar. Anyway. Freaked me out a little bit, that's all. Then I moved. It was gone. Oh, okay.
Sounds like it. Yeah, so I finished Blame last night. And I'm really not sure what I read. Yeah, well, you know, that's all right. So to qualify that, that's one of the things that I have issue with manga.
Yeah.
Is that they are soap operas, like we were talking about, they're not necessarily going to be done when that comic's done. And this is a graphic novel, so I was kind of expecting some kind of conclusion, right?
Okay.
And it wasn't, but it was. You can tell there's something going on. He's looking for some gene that he can, I guess. Have you read any manga or watched a lot of anime?
No.
Huh?
Nope. I've seen some anime, but I have never, to my knowledge, read manga.
Seems to be there's a commonality of humans versus non-humans. So it can be a human if it's really mostly cyborg, right? And then it can be really mostly human and not be a human. So it's really weird the way they make those distinctions. You ever watch like Attack on Titan or any of that?
Yeah, but it's
so
not.
You know, they can be humans, or they can be demons, or they can be something that we would call maybe mutants, but they call something else. I guess as in their traditions, because they have different expectations of what they think a demon is. As a whole,
Yeah.
But so that makes it kind of confusing. And like, first of all, you have to read the comic backwards.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's a pretty thick comic book. It's not a thin comic book. This is 300 pages,
Yeah.
So you have to read it this way, and sometimes you're reading it this way.
Right.
And sometimes you're reading it this way.
Oh.
And you have to figure it out. Let's see if I can find the page where he's talking about what he's looking for. Essentially, he finds out the hard way that there isn't one on that level. And they're not calling them levels. Let's see. They're calling these stratas. So this is like one building all the way going down, and they keep building up. But instead of calling them levels, they're calling them stratas, like stratospheres.
Right.
Which, I think that's kind of silly, because basically it's a level. It's the next level. And I love how people can have an arm chopped off.
Yeah.
And still keep on fighting, not worried about bleeding out or any of that.
Nah, it's easy.
Okay.
That's just like, when Qui-Gon Jinn gets stabbed in the chest with a self-cauterizing blade, and he dies almost instantly, but Darth Maul, cut in half, still survives. Apparently Qui-Gon Jinn was a wuss.
Or suicidal. Because, you're more powerful as a Force Ghost until the movie's over, and then then there's no more Force Ghosts ever again.
Yeah.
All right. So I finished reading Excalibur 2. I finished 3 books last night. And Excalibur by Peter Gibbons is the one that I was reading that was Arthurian. And it read like it was just a whole bunch of fights and some whining over people that were in danger or going to die, or even the enemy. Like Arthur is kind of a little bit whiny about killing people at the beginning, even though he's a warrior that's trained to kill from the time he's a kid, like a little kid. Which never really works for me.
Okay.
So I love history. And because I love history, I know that in that time period, there were a lot of battles. Not like there's a battle here and there, but there's not just a battle with the Saxons, it's a battle between all the separate supposed kingdoms too, right?
Yeah.
It's all over the place. Everybody's battling from the time you're born. And women die regularly in childbirth. It's like a third of women or something like that. It's a pretty high number of women that die in childbirth. And so I think there would be some, or a lot, of desensitization over death, Like, I'm not saying that nobody would be afraid to die, or nobody would be sad if somebody that they love died, because, that's just not people. But to be repetitively kind of sad about the possibility of somebody getting hurt in a time when people get hurt all the freaking time for nothing. I don't know. It's kind of hard to buy. But he did do some pretty cool stuff with, like, his representation of Uther Pendragon is different, and it's pretty cool because it's a little bit refreshing to have it as different as it is. It just sucks when like a third of the book is repetitive. It's saying the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Like I just did.
Okay.
It's redundant. Like over the necessity of what has to happen, or over the necessity of who has to join the fight, or who has to lead. It's like once you've been told this is the prophecy and whatever, you don't really need to be retold every chapter that that's the prophecy and that's how it's got to happen.
Okay.
And when you do, you kind of eliminate the belief that something other than that could happen. Right?
Yeah.
I understand the theory of you want to say something 3 times to establish it. And that's just the rule of threes. 3 times to establish it, 3 different places, you know what I mean? Those are the rules of threes, and I get that. But like every chapter, he's saying what Arthur needs to do, or what Merlin needs to do, or to not trust somebody, and they still end up trusting him. But I guess it's better than like the other historical novel that I was reading about Alfred, when the Vikings would show up, they would say, kill everybody, and then the minute they got through the gates, like, that's enough killing. What do you mean? You killed 4 people.
Yeah.
Like, have you noticed the trend to do that? Is it just me? That when authors are writing the bad guys, they're writing stuff like that, oh, leave no man living, or something like that, and then the next thing they do is stop their men from killing them for some contrived purpose. Oh, I'm gonna tie them to a tree and we'll shoot arrows at them instead, you know? Like, why even say that to begin with? Why even say, you know?
So that's one of the problems with, like, there are plenty of examples where the story only works because somebody was stupid. And
oh yes. No, go ahead. I'm totally agree with that. I'm in total agreement with you.
But there are times when it's like, okay, so like here's an example. Working on this short story, and it really, you know the concept of man in the chair? The person who, like the person who kind of...
What? I can't hear you very well, so... The fans and stuff in my ears, so...
Well, Microchip from Punisher. That's your classic man in the chair.
Okay,
He's there to provide intelligence and surveillance and stuff.
Right.
So,
to give your
in the story
character
that
a
I'm
heads
working
up.
on, it kind of makes a lot of sense for the protagonist to be the man in the chair. And I'm like, you know what? That might make sense, but that can't work. Like, it's just, well, no, let me put that back. It could work. But I'm like, that is not, like, I'm going to have to work a lot harder to make that an interesting story when you know the protagonist is already safe. Now, it can be done. Rear Window comes to mind. The protagonist is literally in a chair, with binoculars. But
yeah, but that's a little bit different of a man in the chair, though, right?
a little bit, but I'm just saying
He's not there for that type of purpose. He's not an archetype.
You can put protagonist outside of the action, but it's not going to be easy, and especially as a newcomer or a relatively low-profile writer, I don't know if that's necessarily something that's going to be easy to accomplish or something I want to swing on.
Well, I can argue Asimov, the Mule, like the whole Foundation series, right? All the action takes place off camera.
Yeah, okay, but that's not my type of story.
So, I'm just saying.
Oh, I'm saying I know it could be done, but the lazy writer, I think, would just, because I could just never mention that she's going to be just, no, I have to be part of this because of whatever BS reason. Or I could spend some time and actually come up with a valid reason as to why she's necessary for the story, so that you're not just going, why doesn't she just hang back and just talk? Because I still need someone to do that position, but it really shouldn't be her. And it would be super easy to just be.
I think that you saying that makes me interested in, because you use the microchip comparison, right?
Yeah.
Makes me interested in why you can't, like, why can't microchip be the protagonist of the story?
Well, I don't know, but notice he's not.
Well, he's not because it's the Punisher, but like that's an ongoing series, and he didn't start off in the Punisher. He worked himself into the Punisher. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
he wasn't an original character, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Am I seeing something? Not seeing something? Why is that?
What are you doing?
Well, it says click show, but I don't see anything but some faded stuff when I clicked on it, it was a StreamYard comment, so I don't know, it's weird.
Oh, yeah.
Weird.
I have not seen anything but the emerging face that you have been drawing.
Live viewers' comments show up on StreamYard, but I guess my mouse was over it, so it looked really weird. It looked like there was a comment waiting to go up. Anyway, I wasn't trying to change the subject or anything.
No, I'm just saying there are a lot of times where you see that it makes no sense if you think about it. If you just take a few minutes, you realize, oh yeah, I get people can be stupid and people are, whatever. They make dumb decisions all the time. I get it. But you can't really do that. Well, you can. There's plenty of evidence that shows you can, but those are people who have already made it. I think those are first sales or major sales. And it's not something I'd want to aspire to.
Well, if it's not the type of story you want to write, then my short answer is, there's your answer.
Well,
if that's not the story that you want to write, or the type of story you want to write, don't write it.
I just,
Now, I'm not trying to argue anything. I'm just trying to say, like, as far as the writer goes, you know what you're interested in. You know what you want to explore. I may not agree with it. Sometimes you're hit and miss for me, right?
right.
Like I like a lot of what you're writing, but sometimes like the ultimate end piece or whatever doesn't work for me, or the story that you claimed that I hated. It wasn't that I hated it. It was just that it led me to believe one thing was going to happen, and it never went that direction after that. But I wouldn't have told you not to write what you want to write. Like that's not my business trying to tell you how to write. But I fully support you exploring something that you're interested in, whether or not it's a popular, whether it's popular or not. Whether you think it's saleable or not, I still hold that there's always a point. There's always if you're interested in it, and if you really, really love what you're writing or love what you're exploring, somebody else is going to be too. I totally believe that.
Okay, but I'm interrupt you here to say, hi, Chris Maycock. Welcome to the Gordox Pub. It's my sole job.
Your sole job. Sole job.
There you go.
And I'm probably the only one that got that.
I don't know.
That was
Is it a Soul Train reference?
Yeah.
Okay, then I got it. Soul Train was on when I was alive. I remember because it would come on sometimes after Saturday morning cartoons. And I never really cared. I was like, oh, God, I guess it's time to go play outside.
Right. Like, it would come on, but that was my time to get the fuck out of here.
Well, normally I had chores I was procrastinating, but, whatever. It's just one of those things, Markers in your brain. All right, I guess it's that time again. I guess I'll go out and do whatever. Vacuum or dust or whatever.
Yeah, I found it cute. So it's that whole short that you shared with me yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a broken man. That's what's left.
Oh, God. Like, that was...
I shared that with Amanda this morning.
I nearly...
Like, aren't you glad that you've got a wife that likes dead baby jokes?
Yeah. Yeah. I can say that for my wife, too. Like, I don't think she's really done that to me. But it made me laugh.
Right.
I was eating lunch when I first saw it, or I had a pop or something, and I nearly spit out what was in my mouth, and then a couple seconds later, I think when he got to that he's a broken man, that I nearly lost it again.
Yeah, like comedians are hit and miss for me too. Like I have a good sense of humor. Some of them they're not funny to me. I've heard it before. It's I don't know. It's just not as funny. But then some things strike me really funny. And that one did the job.
Yeah, so that was a random thing that I saw on Facebook. So now he's showing up more often.
Right.
There was another clip of him. Apparently, there's this girl in the front row who's just kind of slouching, and he starts to pick on her because he doesn't like her energy or something. And he asks her how old she is. She's like 16. He's like, "Oh, never mind. We're moving on." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's the smart move. Once she says 16, you just say, 'Oh, well, have a good evening,' and run away." So.
Yep, that's the smart move.
Oh, has the debate started yet?
Honestly, I have no idea. I'm focusing on this.
Just pull it up and see how it's going. Well, spinning.
Wheel of Death.
That's weird. The sub-error code and message will contain additional information about the underlying cause for this error. Okay. Weird. It's not letting me do it. Huh. I had heard they were gonna, I'm probably just stupid. That's probably the problem.
Huh?
I'll be the first to say I'm probably just stupid. But
yeah, I wouldn't say that because I don't think you are.
Well, I'm just wondering if
we can all be wrong, but you ain't stupid. We can be wrong.
Well, I think they were going to try to stop people from watching and having reaction videos.
What? How fucking un-American is that? You can't watch the debate.
Well,
we're just going to tell you what happened. We're going to tell you what the thing.
That's not. No, that's not. It's the. I really doubt it could be this, but the fact that I was using StreamYard and doing that at the same time, I just wonder if it can recognize that. Well, there it is. I've opened up Internet Explorer. It works just fine. Well, anyway. Oh, God. Oh, I got to turn it off because I will be left. Oh, my goodness. So, oh, God. There's 10 seconds of it. That's it. It was Trump responding to something, whatever. And then the moderator starts talking. And I, oh my God, I kid you not. Like, you might just, okay, so I'm gonna bring my face up a little bit bigger. So This was Trump listening to the moderator. Okay? And this was Joe Biden. And it's just like, what? Like, oh goodness, one picture can say a lot. Oh my goodness. Quite frankly, it's two old guys up there, but still, I'm just, man. I don't expect to hear, like, well, yeah, I guess there will be clips of it later on and whatever. I can't stand watching those things for very long because either I get depressed, I get angry, or I just keep thinking, I have better things to do with my life. So maybe I should go do those. Like being here, being productive, creating something. So, you never watched The Boys, right?
Nope.
Yeah. Part of
No, that's not my type of show. That's because 90% of the time, I can guarantee it's not going to be my type of music.
It is. Part of it, I mean, part of it I actually find very interesting. I don't think they're going to go where I would find it interesting, but they're teasing me enough that they might, that I'm like, oh, okay. It's good enough I can sit through a lot of crap where I'm just like, oh, good. Like, when you start seeing the political bias really just, here you go, and it's just, all right, I'll sit through this, get to the part that I actually care about. And, you know, and some of the stuff that I'm interested in is somewhat political, like, you know, what happens. I have always been fascinated at the idea of, not that I want this to happen, but what is it like when you are the dominant species no more? Especially when you're smart enough to recognize it. And that's something that they're kind of starting to play with. Unfortunately, I don't think they're going to go there. Not really. Or they're going to try to hide it in... they're going to hide it as a metaphor for white supremacy, and I just don't care. I go, all right, go whatever.
What?
I just... The politics of it just are needlessly... It's just bad. And the fact that not a lot of people call it out, I think it's kind of like, on one hand, I'm like, well, hey, at least some of the story is interesting, and I can get behind that, and the idea of, you know, the good guys are trying to do good and, you know, be upstanding people and not buying, you know, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I can get on board with. And again, the stories.
I'm missing something because I thought you were talking about The Voice.
It is The Boys.
Oh, The Boys. I thought you said The Voice.
Oh, no.
Like, that's why I was saying, not my kind of music.
Oh, okay.
Like,
no,
so,
The Boys on Prime.
Yeah, I saw the first season. I don't know. To me, it's another fucking rehash.
Some of it is. And
it's The Watchers as a TV show. Who watches The Watchers, right? Or Watchmen, not Watchers, Watchmen.
I knew what you meant. Yeah, I think from the very short clip that I just watched, that Trump has been practicing sounding calm.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say when we first were talking about this before we went live.
Yeah.
When I said strategy, like I've heard repeatedly that Trump's best strategy and the thing that's most impressed his the ones that sit on the fence is that he's learned to not be so aggressive.
Yeah.
So I was kind of wondering how that was going to work during the debate. Whether he would just not be able to turn the attack dog off.
Because really all he has to do is outlast Biden.
Yeah, and he's got the last one. He's got the last word.
That's probably why Biden did that. That's the reason why Biden shows the what side of the stage.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like
he wants to be done as soon as possible.
When you were saying why would he decide to pick the side of the stage instead of deciding to pick
last word?
Yeah, the last word. And I was thinking, because if he gets Trump upset and then Trump has the last word, will Trump be able to resist calling him out and being a doofus and making fun of his stutter or like the first time around Trump, that whole thing with the reporter that had the disabled hand or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're expecting him to do something like that with Biden. My feelings on Biden are actually, I kind of feel sorry for the guy. I don't think he's evil. I think he's a meat puppet. I really think that they should just fucking let him go. Let him go out the pasture. But I've heard a theory that the intent is to get Trump looking like he's picking on Biden and then pull a bait and switch and not be Biden after all that's going to be facing Trump in the election. Like, I don't know ever in the time, I don't know if ever in U.S. history an incumbent president has decided not to run again.
Technically, yeah, Gerald Ford chose not to.
Gerald Ford was not elected president, though. Oh, wait, he was.
He was
he elected, or did he become president?
He was vice president and became president when
right. Right, Nixon.
I mean, he was elected to vice president.
Yeah, but he wasn't elected to be president, and that's what I mean, is an incumbent that was elected, that ran once and won. I don't know if anyone chose not to like that. Ford is a good example, though, because I did not consider Ford, and that was in my lifetime. So I was really young, though, really young.
He was not in my lifetime. I have the privilege of living through some of Carter.
Privilege.
But
trying a new water, not a sponsor. Never heard of it before. Funky shaped bottle. It's like you can lay it on its side. Looks like a woman if it's laying on its side, but if it's standing straight up, that chick ain't got no ass. And yes, I know it was a double negative. The whole thing was a bit.
Yep. Whoa. That's dog.
Yep, that's the step dog. He sounds like thunder, but and he's probably barking at like nothing, like somebody walking by that doesn't even know he's here.
I remember being at my uncle's house, and at the time he had this little tiny dog named Nibbles.
Yeah.
And
ankle biters.
Yeah, this little tiny poofy thing. I dust him off with, that poops, basically.
Yeah, right.
And we ordered pizza, and he lives in Evansville, so he didn't have air conditioning. The door was open, the screen door was there, and so the guy comes up and knocks, and Nibbles starts to bark, and Nibbles was in a different room. You couldn't see her, and mine was like, "Down, killer, down!" And it scared the pizza delivery guy. And I don't know how. I'm sorry. You could hear, Nibbles sounds like a yap dog because she was a yap dog. So how you can be scared of a yap dog, I don't get it. But, oh well.
By contrast,
yeah,
I've always wanted to get a big dog and name it Kitty. You're like, here, kitty. Element of surprise.
I just messaged a friend of mine who's a social studies teacher, asking if he's watching the debate, because, that's way more up his alley. And he said, I would rather take a brick to the head.
Let me guess. He's in the other camp.
Oh, I don't know. I just don't think he wants to deal with it. So I would say he's actually more in line. He's actually more conservative on some issues than I am. Like, he completely fell for Nancy Reagan and the just say no, and marijuana will give you mutated babies and all that stuff. And
I didn't hear anything about mutated babies. It was the gateway drug.
Well, whatever. Yeah, gateway.
Well, and the reason it was a gateway drug is because once you realize that all the shit talk about marijuana was bullshit, then you're all like, well, how much other shit was bullshit?
Not so much, but yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where and I was like that to an extent until someone was starting to ask, like, I just bought into the government propaganda about it, and then somebody started asking me questions about it, and I'm like, okay, I understand that, and I'm glad the trend is towards legalization. I think that's a good thing. I think prohibition rarely works, and I think it would cut down on other drug use, to be honest with you.
Well, I don't know if it will cut down on other drug use, drug deals, any of that shit. What I do think it would cut down on is the violence associated with keeping the secret.
Yeah.
Because if it's no longer a big deal if you sell... in the 60s they were selling like a wid for $10, and that was a sewing tin wid piled over, right?
Okay, if you say so, I wouldn't know. Sorry.
Well, no, that's what it is. Like, I mean,
okay.
there's plenty of shows on it, like, that will tell you. I wasn't alive in the 60s. I certainly wasn't doing drugs in the 60s, but I wasn't alive in the 60s.
Yeah.
But it was like a lid to a sewing kit, or like a cookie tin, you know?
Okay, yeah, I've seen that.
And they would pour broken up pot on it, and whatever fell off, and whatever remained on was like $10. Now that's probably a half of a legalized joint. Or yeah, like $10 would be probably $10, $15 a joint or something. I don't do it, so it's hard to answer that, but or hard to elaborate on that. But
right.
My point is that when it wasn't illegal, or when nobody cared about it, nobody was killing people over it. They weren't killing people over the secret. They weren't, you're a narc, you're gonna die because you're a narc, because nobody cared, right?
Right. And it relaxes you way more than alcohol does.
Well, no, I'm not getting into the qualities. I'm getting into the logistics.
Okay.
And the other thing is that when you make it so that it's legal, and even I would go so far as to, if you make it legal and you don't put any rules on it, you know what I mean? You don't put laws and whatever on it, then all of a sudden the market's flooded. And what happens if the market's flooded?
Price goes down.
Price goes down because everybody can get it everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So those fucking criminal millionaires are no longer criminal millionaires. They're criminal thousandaires or 100,000aires or whatever. It changes the availability for them to start that drug war. There's no money in it if everybody can do it and everybody can get it, for cheaper than what you're selling it for. You're not going to make shit. And if there's no laws against it, there's no reason to kill anybody over it. So logistically, right, this is what I'm talking about. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to make it illegal. because that's all you're doing is making it so that people are going to kill people over it, making it so the prices are going to be high, and you're going to make millionaires out of people that would normally not be. There are medicinal and other logistical reasons, like making hemp or making clothes from hemp and rope from hemp and paper from hemp and all that stuff. There are logistical reasons. You can grow and harvest hemp in way shorter of a time than you can grow trees, right?
Right.
So there are a lot of supporting arguments for it. And I'm not saying that there isn't at all, but I wasn't making the argument of whether or not I think it's right to smoke pot. I'm thinking whether or not it's right for the war on drugs to involve, if you make it illegal like that, then you give people cause to shoot people to keep a secret. That's one of the like 4 major motives or something for murder. So we got to give her pointed ears. Oh no.
Oh yeah.
Oh no.
Oh yeah.
No.
I guess, sir.
No, I said no.
Yeah.
I didn't say yes. I said no.
Yeah.
You're full of shit. No. No, you're full of shit. I did say that. This is our normal routine.
Interesting. I saw a YouTube short, I think it was a YouTube short, that said you can tell who's supposed to be a good guy in anime by their teeth. That, like, the more evil you are, the more they define your teeth. I think it was that way. I hope it's not backwards. You can tell how much I...
No. Usually the bad guys have sharp teeth at some point.
You're saying like normally like good guys just kind of have light and yeah.
Yeah, like good guy's mouth will be like this, right? If he's smiling, you might have a line this way and a line this way.
Yeah.
Bad guy could be or it could be could be just a couple of sharp teeth or whatever, but they'll indicate that there'll be sharp teeth. So, like, there is a thing where the good guys are going to have just very simple mouths, just enough to see whether it's angry, happy, whatever, yelling.
Right.
But the bad guys will have needle sharp teeth or whatever the direction they're going for. Or there's a lot of like demon characters that are not bad guys, they're just demons.
Okay.
Because the demons in anime are not, or manga anime, Japan really, aren't necessarily good or bad. They're just spirits with powers. So yeah, I mean, I can see that analogy or simple description or whatever, but sharpening my pencil because I don't like I have a pointer, which is what they call the lead holder sharpeners.
Okay.
But they're pretty expensive. They're like $15 to $25, and some of them, every time you go like this, they'll just break the lead. They'll just grip it and break it. You have to have just the right touch to be able to use it. Other ones you'll be able to zip right along, no problem. But like I've spent $30 on them, and so far I've not come up with one that works when I want it to work. So sandpaper does. So yeah.
Okay.
That's for anyone that needs an explanation. That's about all the explanation that you're going to get.
I'll be right back. I'm going to get myself something to drink. And I've returned.
Welcome back.
Would have been faster, but when I was walking through the living room, my son's like, "Can you bring me a pop?" All right. So I go out, grab my pop. Don't see any of my sons in the fridge. Look over to where we keep the pop. Son's out, which means he was really trying to get one of mine, which I gave him. But it was just that whole looking for anything. Like I was like, how much pop do I have? Because I am a grumpy, grumpy man if I don't have my pop. Not a sponsor, but could be. So I told the boys when they were very little, I said, listen, you ever want to see your father get upset, take the last of his pop. And that has scared them away from doing that normally. They've taken all but the last one, but they've never taken the last one. So they're good boys. Do you know Sanderson's 3 Laws of Magic?
Yep.
Okay. I've been thinking about these quite a bit lately. Because
I think I linked them to you at one time.
I don't know if you have or not. I mean, I get it's easy enough to find them. But,
Nowadays.
yeah. But I was just thinking, and I don't know if, well, I'm working with the soft magic system, and I know I'm working with the soft magic system. But even that has some basic rules to it.
Is it magic system rules or world rules?
They are writer rules, which I think are somewhat different than what Sanderson talks about. Although he's close to it, his laws are about writing, so they kind of, I guess they work. But
well, yeah, because he's not giving you advice on how to create a magic system. It's just how to use it, how to employ it.
But one of the things that I thought would work best, well, I mean, I guess it started from, why don't you just use magic to kill the guy? You know, so I had to have a reason for that. And then as I was working through some of those issues, I started thinking about kind of generalities, but if you have a magic system that's soft, at least for me, at least like the way I'm getting around some of these issues is that, and I haven't made it an in-world rule. It's just a rule for me as a writer that, at least for this story, magic cannot be used to achieve a goal, but it can be used to make achieving the goal easier.
What's the difference?
Well, it's degree. For example, let's just go with killing somebody. There are other reasons why you'd be worried about this in the story, but for the most part, I'm not going to let a character just cast a spell and kill somebody. But I would allow someone, this hasn't happened yet, but let's say they cast a spell for a gust of wind, which pushes someone off balance and kills them. Like they fall off the cliff. I don't know. So, yeah, you used magic, but the magic itself was call forth wind. And then...
Yeah, but to kill somebody with that magic, right?
Well, I would say that's different. You use the wind,
and you kill
not the
somebody
magic.
with wind?
Well, yeah, I think there's a difference in degree.
I'm asking you if you could kill somebody with wind.
Well, no, technically gravity killed him.
No, that's not what I'm asking. You're all right. So let me clarify. You're giving a hypothetical. I'm not asking my question about your hypothetical.
Okay.
I'm giving a hypothetical question.
Okay.
Could you kill somebody with wind? Could you suck the air out of their lungs? Could you overfill their lungs till they explode? Could you cause a hurricane to, smash them against the wall? Could you drive them through a wall with wind?
Technically, yes.
Okay.
Although there are still some, because again, you're not just saying die. You're actually doing something. That causes death, but it's not actually. The spell isn't a death spell. It's something that you have to think about, and you got to be powerful.
It's semantics, right? So it's like you can't.
Well, no,
you can't go death and make them die, but you could cast levitation and throw a spear at their eyeball.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you could drive them forward onto a stake or whatever. So you can use magic to kill.
Well,
you just can't use a magic spell that makes death.
Okay.
But that's what I'm asking. Like the clarification that you're giving me is that
yes.
You can't just go, you're dead, and then have them die. But you can use it in a way that's going to kill them.
Yeah, if you are powerful enough. Yeah. That's the other thing. Like when you're talking about using wind to kill somebody.
Well, I'm creative, so like when I played D&D, I used to do that kind of shit all the time. I'd take a potion of gaseous form and go up into a dragon's nostrils, and then once I got right around his brain or in his heart, I'd expand, turn myself back to myself.
Right.
Like, that's the kind of way I think. So when you say you can't use it to kill, what you really mean is that you don't have a death spell. You don't have a spell that's going to kill, like an instantaneous kill spell. But if you're capable, you can use magic to murder somebody.
I'm not saying you're conflating it with an in-world rule versus a writing rule. In-world, you could have a spell that kills somebody. That's still technically possible. As a writer, though, I'm not going to go that route. And I have ways of making sure that doesn't happen.
So when I asked you that question like that, is because you said...
Right, I get it.
You said... at the beginning of this, that you said that somebody's going to ask you, why didn't you just use magic to kill them? And they're not asking you why didn't you as a writer just use magic to kill them? They're asking why the logic is for a character that could use magic. So they could not do that on principle, right?
It could be. Well, yeah, but I also.
So I
have other
mean,
reasons.
the reason isn't that they're not capable; it's that you don't want them to. Because you just said that in that world you could.
Yeah, but there are reasons. There are more than just they choose not to. There are other factors, and I created those factors because I created a rule for myself that I don't want them to be able to directly.
Okay, what I'm misunderstanding, I guess, then is what those factors are that make it not possible.
Not probable. That's a better way of putting it. That it costs a lot, so it's therefore difficult to do. Let's put it that way. There is a high cost in directly doing something. The more powerful it is, the more it costs. Therefore, killing someone that's directly is pretty darn powerful. Creating smoke so they can't breathe, not as powerful. It's easier to do.
But you're not going to let them do that.
Well, I would let them create smoke. I wouldn't let them just kill.
Well, I don't know. That's going back around the circle. Like I'm saying, I was saying the same thing, but only not smoke. I was saying it in a different form.
Right, but again,
and you're like, I won't let them do that because that's my writer rule. But
no, I won't let them have a spell that just kills them.
That's what I said. You were like, no, not like that.
Right.
I was saying you're not just going to cast death, or like a cantrip, untimely death, or something like that.
It's kind of in my brain a Final Destination rule. Why can't death just say, "Oh, you had a stroke"? Because that doesn't make for an interesting movie. So instead, they have to have a whole bunch of weird accidents, which is kind of what the thing's about, and making people paranoid to drive behind a semi carrying logs, or that's probably the worst one.
What?
Did you ever see Final Destination? I think it's Final Destination 2.
No, I saw one, and that was enough.
Well, I think the second one. There's a bridge collapse and stuff, and there's a like a logging truck, and
the first one had a logging truck that had went through the windshield and killed somebody. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, okay, I guess it's the first one.
Log, that was the first one. That's pretty realistic up here.
But it's
logging trucks. Logging trucks are fucking dangerous, so you don't fucking get on a logging truck's ass. If you can help it.
I think it's funny how that movie, I think, or that franchise, has helped cause some phobias in people.
I don't know. Those are people that are easily afraid, I guess. Were they young people?
I think there's the group that they see a logging truck, they think that scene, and it's in kind of an involuntary memory, and then makes them wary. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, they are literally pretty dangerous, though. So we generally give them a lot of clearance. I don't know if they've shown it in one of those movies or not, but also dump trucks full of boulders, they have to have coverings on them here because those boulders will come right out of the dump truck if you hit a bump. I actually know somebody whose sister was in a car behind one of the dump trucks like that, and they hit a bump and the fucking boulder came through the window and smashed her chest.
Hmm.
The driver got out and was apologizing, calling the ambulance and all that, which is an automatic admission of guilt. Which it should have been, because he should have had a cover on over it. There's a cover built for that shit.
Yeah.
But the company fought it and said it wasn't his fault. So that fucking woman got fucked out of that. So the whole thing, she got fucked out of the whole thing. But yeah, like, I mean, you were saying it was funny, but it's like it's not really all that uncommon around here. Someone die from a logging truck.
It's a little less common here, I admit.
Well, yeah, because you know you're probably not a state with 90% trees.
Nope.
Like our habitations are pretty much just on the coast, and in from the coast a little bit, but most of our stuff is preservation land. So a lot of logging companies. I'm sure. I want to say, you know, in the UP they do, and probably they do in Minnesota, because they have a lot of evergreen trees and lakes and stuff. I would not be surprised if that was the case.
Yeah.
There's entire shows on that from people in Canada that work those logging trails, and they can only work in certain temperatures. So, yeah. It may not be common, but it's common enough here. I got some kind of hiccupy, gassy stuff, which I'm not eating, so you wouldn't think that it would be. So anyway, it's more common.
Okay. I believe
I'm pretty sure it's not common. Well, like you said, you have a lot of flat land. Probably it's not going to be a commonality in like Kansas and Missouri and all of them too, because they're plains and flatlands too. Any place that you can consider Tornado Alley is probably likely not going to have a lot of logging trucks. I wonder if, like, Washington State, Upper California does.
I would think so.
I can't imagine that particular final destination takes place in Maine.
Oh, no.
More than likely, it's going to be somewhere in California.
I don't know. I don't know if it matters that much. I know that the first one, they're getting on a plane, and I thought it was like a school trip to like Europe or something, which would mean they're on the East Coast.
Not necessarily. They could be stopping over on the East Coast to get there.
Okay.
Well, I'm just saying, with planes, you can take a plane from anywhere. You're just gonna have to have a.
It's not that important for me to want to go back there and check.
No, I was just wondering because like the subject has been broached, so now I'm wondering if the logging trucks are supposed to be in California or Maine. All right, so where does the howling take place?
I don't know.
Well, if you're talking about the movie, it takes place in New England. If you're talking about the book, it takes place in Northern California.
All right. According to Wikipedia,
That's the place for answers right there.
in the original Final Destination, high school student Alex Browning boards Oli Airlines Flight 180 with his classmates for a field trip to Paris. Okay.
Doesn't tell where from, right?
Yeah, I don't think it does.
Yeah.
Huh. Second one, they're heading to Daytona Beach. Oh.
Does the second one even have the same cast?
It's only got one survivor from the first movie. And I was okay, so it's Final Destination 2 that has the logging truck.
Okay, so I guess I saw Final Destination 2.
Yeah, it's not like you have to. Although, actually, hold on. If you watch them sort of in order, you can actually, I think, watch the first one and the last one, and it works just fine. But it's kind of neat because it does come full circle. But for the most part, let's face it, that's not that important. That's not.
I don't care enough either way because I'm not really a big horror fan. I used to be, but you know, as I got older, I outgrew that shit. That's not. It doesn't hold the same. Doesn't hold the same magic as it did for me as a kid.
Well, now normally most.
What's that?
The problem I have with most horror films is that they tend to be kind of stupid. That's a great example of a whole genre that tends to rely on the stupidity of the characters, and that tends to bother me.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you have intelligent characters doing intelligent things and it all works, that's a good film in my opinion. But like, I remember watching the remake of The Hills Have Eyes, and the dog is the smartest character in that entire film. Everyone else, idiot, just complete idiot. But whatever, you know. So when it's harder to find intelligent horror films, that's kind of the problem. But the thing I mean, really, that thing where Final Destination 5.
Give me an example
Of what?
of an intelligent horror film.
Of what?
An intelligent horror film.
Oh.
And I'm not being facetious. I'm asking your opinion because I don't know where that division would lie myself because most of the horror, I can't even think of a horror that can't be defined as stupid if you break it down.
I don't know. I'd have to really
Unless
think.
it's like a religious horror or something like that.
Yeah, see, those are some of those things that I'd have to think about. And like, I don't watch a lot of horror anymore because I don't know if I'd.
Well, yeah, I'm just, like I said, it's not a trick question. I'm not being facetious. I'm just wondering what you consider intelligent horror. Like, Do you have an
What?
example or
Well, is Misery a horror film or is that a thriller?
depends on how you define it, I guess. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
it
because
could
Misery's
be-
pretty darn smart.
it could be yeah, I would say it's a more of a crime thriller.
I don't know if a crime thriller, but I'd definitely say
Sure.
thriller.
It's all crime, right?
It's kind of Good Samaritan gone wrong.
It's a good Samaritan gone wrong.
If I-
Well, she's a nutcase. So you could argue that it's psychological horror, psychological thriller, or kind of a crime thriller.
Yeah,
Because you're watching a crime take place the whole time. And, whatever. I mean, like, I'm still actually not trying to
I know.
not trying to be facetious. I'm trying to see, like, so basically you're saying that Stephen King is an example of more intelligent horror.
No, not necessarily. In fact, there's quite a bit that it's just like, okay, that doesn't make a lot of sense. So that's why I was very particular when I said Misery. Oh, that's funny though. Now that I think about it, the way Stephen King wrote The Mist, that was stupid. The way, and you don't like the film, but I think that ending is just chef's kiss.
Yeah, I don't know. That, like, that has
That's
to
definitely
come
a
with
horror
the qualification that I don't really like a whole lot of new horror stuff.
No, that's fine.
And that to me is in the newer horror category. So like, it has. I don't know how much of it has to do with, like, I didn't read The Mist. Like, if I read The Mist, maybe I would appreciate the movie ending more. But I just,
The
I can
book.
take it or leave it. It's one of those things I really don't like to go through a story and then end up with an unsatisfying ending. And I didn't get a satisfied ending out of that. It didn't satisfy me.
Well,
But I didn't read the book, so that might have made a huge difference.
the novella is literally
Because
the
I'm
ending.
telling you, Children of Men did. The movie Children of Men versus the book. Oh boy, the book is
For
just
the novella, they
miserable.
The novella of The Mist, they just drive off. They just literally they get out in their Jeep, they get home, his wife isn't there, so they go looking for her. And I'm like, that's that. So there's no resolution. Because the mist is still spreading, like it's still nothing has really been fixed. It's just that they've escaped the supermarket. That's basically it. Whereas in the film, wow. And a lot of the stuff that was that ending of the film.
I thought that was the commonality of the ending, is that maybe I'm getting it wrong, or maybe somebody told me different or whatever, that it implies he shot himself at the end of the movie.
No, he can't. So in the book and in the movie, one of the supermarket people, this woman, is a religious nut who starts saying that it's
that's not uncommon in Stephen King literature.
Right, and she keeps saying they need to sacrifice a virgin. And pretty much the only one there that's probably a virgin is that guy's kid. So she's suggesting that they murder that guy's kid. And then at the end of the book, or the novel, or the novella, there's nothing to do with that. She was just a crazy psycho. But in the movie, spoiler alert, it's him.
It's kind of long out of the spoiler category.
Yeah. It's him. It's the protagonist, his son, and an old couple, if I remember correctly. And they only have 3 bullets. And so the protagonist kills the other 3 and then can't kill himself. And he steps out of his car, assuming he'll be killed by the big monster things, and you see this dark shape come through the mist, and it's the U.S. military. And so you're left wondering, wait, was that crazy lady right? Like, he sacrificed his kid because he didn't want his kid to suffer. But once that happens, the monsters are defeated. So it doesn't necessarily have a causal link, but it creates some of that, because of the coincidence of it, the timing, I could see how religious people would see, you needed to have that sacrifice. Like, which is like another kind of scariness. Like, really? Like, you really needed to sacrifice? Like, that's how you solve the problem? And if you compare that to, like, oh, God. There was a Stephen King TV series where there's a storm in New England and everyone's trapped, like, on this island.
Perfect. Yeah. Storm of the Century.
Yeah. It kind of has some of the... I mean, you have to get rid of it. You have to give this guy, somebody, and he'll leave you alone. It's kind of the same message, but I think it was done better in this movie. And I think there are problems with the Mist movie because ultimately it's just a big giant bug movie. But that religious aspect to me, just that ending, the ambiguity of it all, just that to me, I thought was great because that left me thinking about it. For one thing, you're just either the guy killed his son 10 seconds before they would have been rescued. Like, how's that going to eat into you? Or, I mean, just, I think it's a great movie. Or it's a great ending. That's one of the best endings to a horror film ever.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I wasn't left wondering. I was left like, yeah, whatever. And like, I'm not demeaning your opinion, whatever. I'm not trying to at all. I'm just like, it didn't work that way for me. It didn't leave me with questions. It left me. The only question it left me with is, why the fuck did they make this movie?
It's all right.
I mean, really, like, I've told my kids for years, that's the kind of, the point of horror is that you get a thrill, but for all the scariness or hauntingness or whatever, if you go through to the end, it's okay. Well, now that's out the window. It's more often than I'm not just picking on that one particular movie. It's a commonality in horror, and ever since they started really doing more kind of splatterpunk than horror, it's kind of turned me off. I got no interest in it. I don't feel like there's that intellectual component, or maybe the sense of escapism is not satisfied. You know what I mean? By the ending, if you gotta work for it, well, I don't want to work for it. I want to pay to be entertained. I don't want to work for it. Much anyway. Like, I don't want it to be completely stupid. I don't want it to be like guessable and all that. And I've seen some different theories lately on why stuff is predictable.
Okay.
Because it's I heard an argument with Chuck Dixon that kind of warmed my heart a little bit. And it's going to sound fucked up to all the aspiring writers, especially the ones that are buying into the bullshit nowadays that you have to do whatever. Chuck Dixon is against character-driven stories. And I'm not saying that he hates them because that's not what he said. But the implication is that the character-driven story is an excuse for someone that can't follow a fucking plot. And I love it because the best stories that I remember, they have a point to them. They're a story. They have endings. The ones that don't have endings are all character-driven stories. And I've read in people's opinions a lot lately that, oh, I don't care if it has an ending because I like the characters. Well, I fucking care if it has an ending. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to watch a movie and it not be over so that I have to pay for the next movie to watch the next part for it not to be over. You know? And that's a trend with a lot of different kinds of entertainment. There's video games that you pay for that you never beat. You never can beat them. What the fuck are you buying them for? And especially, why are you paying the same money that you can buy a beatable video game for with the idea of you actually beating it? Why are you paying the same money for updates on something you can never win? You know? Okay. So I got a tank and you got a tank and we can buy a upgrade where I can make that tank look different. I can never win. I can just win matches against you. So, like, you're playing Super Punch-Out with tanks. Yeah, and you're paying for every time you change the character to do the same thing you did with the characters they gave you the first time. But you're paying the same price for that entire video game for an upgrade.
I make fun of my boys for playing Barbie dress up because, you know, they'll get different skins and it's like, oh, you're playing Barbie dress up. Okay. And that tends to bother them. But
yeah, I just don't understand it. I don't. But it's the same thing. It's that mentality that I don't have to have an ending. I don't have to have a conclusion. It doesn't have to be going anywhere. My attention span's not long enough to finish something.
Okay, wait, hold on a second. So just, I'm just trying to figure out some boundaries here.
What?
Well, just what you mean by finished? Like,
what do you mean?
That's what I'm getting at. Like, so
you know what a conclusion is or a win?
No.
In either case, like there's a conclusion. If you play a video game with an adventure, like Zelda, for instance, right? Yeah. You have a goal. You can beat the game, correct?
Yeah.
You know when you've reached the end, right?
Yeah.
You can play it again. You can play with different characters or whatever, but you know you don't have to pay for another character to go through it all again. Or do the same thing that you were already doing.
Well, okay, but
if you're reading a story, you know what the conclusion is.
Okay,
you know when it's done. That doesn't say that you can't write other stories or read other stories in that universe, but there's a story.
Okay, so that's what I just wanted to make sure I understood where you were. So, like, if you take like. Well, you've never seen Goldfinger.
What?
Right? Did you say you never saw Goldfinger?
No, why would I say that?
Because I thought you had.
You had not read Goldfinger.
That's true. But
and the reason that I bought Goldfinger to read is because you were telling me how that was your favorite Bond.
It's the Bond film.
But yes, but you weren't clarifying that. You were just saying that was your favorite Bond. And I was talking, and I wasn't clarifying it either, but I was talking about books and you were talking about movies.
Well, okay, but
I've seen Goldfinger. I mean, I've seen them all. I think the only one that I haven't seen all the way through is Moonraker.
Okay.
And I'm not even sure of that.
So those movies are not character driven, and because they're not.
They didn't start out to be, no.
Yeah. I would argue even the Daniel Craig ones really aren't character driven all that much. There's more.
I've heard argument to the contrary, and that's why you got that last movie is because it's character driven.
Oh well, that could be. But
yeah, okay. Anyway,
but they don't really. They end for that. If they're episodic almost, like all right, this episode's over.
it is, but
And
no,
you
that's
don't-
an ending. The end of the
Okay,
mission.
that's. I'm not arguing. I'm just clarifying. I'm
Okay.
finding your edges.
Well, you were saying they don't end. They just end the episodic. But
Well,
yeah, I mean that's the point. It's an episode in one secret agent's life. If you read enough Bond, you'll know that he goes from an agent to a head of an agent, head of double O's. You know what I mean? Actually, I think in Goldfinger he does.
But so like that's just all I was saying because I knew like if you look at like Marvel films, especially the good ones, they end, but they don't end because they end like like Avengers ends. They defeat the Chitauri. They take Loki's in handcuffs and movie's over. Like, but there's still a story going on. But that's still an ending, right? If you want to stop there, you can stop there. See what I'm saying? Like, it's not that they never end. They do end.
The story ends. I'm not saying that the universe ends. The universe doesn't have to end. The place in which, or the group in which, or like you watch a cop show, unless it's a 2-part episode, at the end of the episode, there's a conclusion to that story. It's not a conclusion to the cop team or a conclusion to the department or whatever. It's a conclusion to that particular story.
Did you ever watch The Mentalist?
I don't. No, I didn't. Amanda did, and I don't watch a lot of TV, really. I mean,
Oh, neither do I. When I happen to,
once in a
I do
while I
happen to
do.
I mean, it's over.
What?
The series is over. It's been.
Oh, yeah, I know. I know it's over.
But,
Like I said, Amanda watched it. I didn't.
So they did. Every episode ends, but there's that Red John thread that runs through some of them. That's always kind of there, and that was kind of a neat. I like that you can have your individual stories, but then you also have this bigger story. And
So I'm not sure what you're saying.
well, so in The Mentalist, the main character, his family is killed by a serial killer called Red John. And that's why he goes into and helps out basically the California FBI, because that's what it really is. I mean, just whatever. That's why he starts helping with the police, is to try to catch Red John. But they don't catch Red John. I mean, it's like 20-some episodes a season and like 6 or 7 seasons. And it's a lot of episodes. And
Okay.
they don't catch him till the end.
But they
And it's
catch
one of
it
those-
at the end?
They do catch him at the end. Or
Okay.
they kill him at the end. But it's one of those things where you can see every episode has a basic format. They catch somebody doing something by the end of the episode.
Have you ever watched Ripper Street?
Have I ever watched what?
Ripper Street.
No. I don't think so.
Ripper Street is, it's about Whitehall, Whitechapel, no, Whitehall, right? Jack the Ripper. It's one of the investigators for the Jack the Ripper case was Ed Reed, and Ripper Street is a series, a TV show. I think you can find it on Netflix, but it's Ed Reed looking for his daughter because he's sure Jack the Ripper had kidnapped his daughter. And it never concludes the resolution to whether it was Jack the Ripper that kidnapped his daughter or not.
Yeah.
I think he gets her back, but it doesn't conclude whether or not it was Jack the Ripper, because in real history, Jack the Ripper was never caught.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think you'd probably be interested in it because there's a little bit of caper. It's set in that late 1800s time period. He's got an American gunslinger there hiding out, and then there's a prostitute that has a secret past or whatever, but they're all involved in solving these murders. And it's basically saying, the Pinkertons were the first ones to create a rogues gallery.
Yeah.
Well, because of Jack the Ripper, Ed Reed starts collecting fingerprints and stuff like that. And they're doing autopsies because this American cowboy also just happens to be a doctor, surgeon. It's a good enough show. Don't get me wrong; it's a good enough show. But
have you seen The Alienist?
It doesn't conclude, and that's why I wanted to bring it up, because it's in relation to what you were asking. It's kind of a mentalist type show, just a period drama. But it doesn't have that resolution. The only resolution is he gets his daughter back. So it's like the only possible resolution they could do without it being completely fictional, right?
Right.
But that is a resolution. So I mean,
okay.
that's when you're saying that overarching story and overarching plot, which you don't realize. You're not going to see the reveal. You're not going to see the end. You're not going to see the resolution until the last episode, right? That's what you're talking about. That was the same thing when Bernard Cornwell wrote the Uhtred books. Every Uhtred book is a separate adventure, but there's an overall story that started in the beginning as he was a kid, and he ran out as a kid to try to beat up the Vikings and get his dad free or his older brother free. His uncle took over that castle. So the whole time, each episode, each season, each book, whatever, he's literally trying to get back to Bebbanburg because that's his hereditary family home. And he's trying to get it back. And all these adventures are adventures, but they're also delays in allowing him to get back to it. And some of them are intentional because King Alfred is intending to delay him. So it's another form of that overarching story. Each separate story is a story. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like each separate book is a story. There's a beginning, there's an end, there's a plot in between. But there's an overarching plot for him to get Bebbanburg back. I'm just, I guess, trying to give different examples of different ways that works. But it still concludes. All of them have that in common. They all have conclusions. The main overarching story doesn't have to be over, but the story that starts should be finished by the time that, particular book or movie or game is done.
Did you ever watch the original Quantum Leap?
Yeah.
So how did you feel about that ending?
I don't remember that ending, but
he never makes it back home.
I want to say I didn't like it. What?
It just says he never makes it back home.
Yeah, because they canceled it and nobody expected it to be canceled.
Well,
yeah, okay. I didn't like it, obviously, and I didn't like them trying to attempt to do a new one.
I did not like the new one because it had a lot of modern audience problems.
Right.
Because that's really what. As soon as they start saying modern audience, I start thinking, oh, dude.
Right. I start changing the channel or looking for something else, or
Yeah.
opening up another book so I can read 3 or 4 books at once. Actually, I cracked that Star Wars book open. It's so stupid. I can't remember storyboard. It's hard for me to remember storyboard, and I don't know why. But yeah, I read the forwards to that, and it's the reason that you're seeing stuff in there that's not in the movie is because they drew storyboards that they weren't told necessarily what to draw for some of them. They were just told to draw. And George Lucas really left them alone. And then he came back and went, well, you can cut this panel, this panel, and this panel because it doesn't do with the progression of the story. And that is why I wanted the book. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is the thinking behind looking at a wall full of sketches that are, panels
Yeah.
of storytelling sequences, and him going, you don't need this and you don't need that, because that story's told in between these panels. So if you cut this one and cut this one, and one of the guys was saying, like, he was the first guy that the first time he did storyboards, he didn't know what the hell a storyboard was. He just took the job because it was closer to home when he just graduated college. But he was saying that it didn't take him long to get the concept, but he couldn't ask anybody. So, like, he would just hang around and look at storyboards or look at what was around and do some sketches while George Lucas was around. He said he was drawing his favorite car, and George Lucas come up behind him and he's like, oh, the wheel wells aren't circles like that, they're flat at the top. And from then on, he appreciated Lucas's attention to detail. But his attention to storytelling is what makes him be able to edit out those boards. And it's like what I was doing when you gave me the pages, and I was like, well, I can condense this into this, or put these 2 panels together. It doesn't have to be, all separate panels to tell this part of the story. There's something that takes place between this panel and this panel, unless I want to get a reaction that goes from this panel to that panel, which is why I cut the original panel from here and I'm going to put it here, because the panel that follows it that would have been here, let me pull these over. The original first panel was this, right? And I'm going to put this panel here, but it's not, because she's not going to be the same. But I wanted to show her mouth being wider before it opened. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't want to open it 4 ways because nothing is in there that looks like it's a 4-way. It looks like it just opens wider, and I have a plan for that. But I think this, and this can be condensed as well, because these 2 panels are important. These 3 kind of tell the same thing and make you wonder, is this real? Because this isn't real. The buildings didn't melt into monster spaces or whatever.
Right.
So, part of that's hallucination. I don't know why I wanted to add a ization into it. But yeah. So, which is scarier? Everything turned into these faces, or you seeing demons and monsters and werewolves and whatever. So
I like the demons and werewolves and monsters.
yeah, me too.
Okay, good.
So that's what my plan is that I'm still gonna have that big wide, and then him run or turning to run, but I don't think I need to have. I think I need to have a panel of 2 panels with the same kind of mouth open.
Okay.
One, you can start to see it happen, so she grins and it goes wider than it's supposed to be. I haven't shown her teeth in any of the panels previous. Her mouth is all closed in all the previous panels. So when she smiles, when she actually shows teeth, they go much wider than they should go. and I forgot the chin tattoo. So, and what I'm going to do in the next panel is going to kind of obliterate the innocent part completely. There's a little innocent look and whatever. You're going to see enough to know that she's still basically a woman, but from here down, it's going to be Fright Night. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But bigger. And that's why I left a bigger panel, because then I can show that reaction with him. And then instead of showing him backing up and throwing his arms up, yeah, I'm gonna knock the shit out of my mic doing this. So I turned the fan on higher so I can get cooler because it was hot today, and now it's blowing everything around. So instead of him doing this, we don't need it, because this right here is the startle. Everybody kind of gets the startle. But we're going to do this with him in the lower part of the next panel, or maybe here. But I want to show a lot of fucking face right through here.
Okay.
And then it's these 2 panels, which I still pretty much have set up, but I didn't think we needed this, because if we do this, it's kind of a little dark, dark smirk just before she opens a super wide maw. And then that leaves me the same 2 panels that I planned on doing the hallucinations in. And actually, I should probably, well, I got some time. Couldn't hurt to set the characters up, right? So I like the idea of her there, and then this leading to the next panel. So I still have managed to avoid drawing a lot of backgrounds. I've got 2 panels that got backgrounds in them. It's one of the things that I was checking Blame out for too, is the backgrounds of the panels.
Yeah.
One of the things that's going to be different here is, instead of just me freehanding it like I did in the prelims, I'm gonna get a reference for the position that I want. I don't know. Maybe I'm not going to be able to get much of his running, because I really want to do that face. I've been I've been kind of psyched to want to do that big open mouth, nasty, scary mouth.
Okay.
But the good news is panel 1's done. I was thinking about putting part of her hood there, but there's not much room for that, so it would only be.
Yeah, you're blurry.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Well, normally it corrects itself pretty good. No, that did not. There it goes.
Yeah, I had to move my hand up closer. Yeah,
Well, normally every once in a while it gets blurry and then it autocorrects them. So if I say something, it's because
it doesn't. Yeah, I get it. I get it.
Well,
Maybe it'll be a combination.
okay.
Like his face starting to turn. So I can do hers bigger. How's the Loch Lamora coming for you? Are you still bothering?
Part of it, it's needlessly wordy, and here's the weird part.
There's no way people look at it.
Like,
He's bombed that so hard. The Democratic people that are.
You hear Amanda?
no.
Biden just fucking bombed pretty hard. There's no way they're going to nominate him. They're going to pull him.
What happened?
She said Biden bombed the debate hard. She's like,
Well,
there's no way that they're gonna nominate him.
The CNN recaps it. These people are stunned. This guy's looking at his phone. He's like, I've never had so many people texting me in the middle of a debate going, no, just no. People that are hardcore Biden backers, this guy looks like he's going to cry. He's like, they need to figure out another plan. This is glorious.
It'll be Gavin Newsom.
Trump wasn't having a great night either, and there was a lot. Like, there's going to be a lot of
Me?
bullshit meter. It's going to be wild for the next couple of days, but the Dems are going to have no fucking choice at the moment.
Dark Brandon? They're going to pull Dark Brandon? Dark
They
Brandon.
spend most of the time just swinging mud at each other, calling each other names. Joe Biden's like, you're a loser.
That's
It's like ridiculous.
She said they spend most of the time just calling each other names. She said, like, Joe Biden looks at him and goes, you're a loser. We were just talking about whether or not Trump was going to take the high road because,
Oh no.
well, because that's one of the things that they were saying that was better on the campaign road this time. Because this time around, he's been much more calm when talking about that stuff. So, like, we're like, do you think he's going to be calm? Apparently, he wasn't calm either. So I don't know. I'll have to watch it after.
No, you have to. Biden said something about Trump's recent felony convictions, and he's like,
Biden brought up Trump's recent felony conviction.
right? And Trump goes, well, Hunter's a felon.
Trump goes, well, Hunter's a felon.
They just fight trade punches.
Yeah, well, as far Really?
as issues,
it's like Waldorf and Statler.
right?
It's like Waldorf and Statler from the Muppets campaigning against each other, debating each other.
Oh, that's kind of funny.
It's absolutely funny to me.
Everything we've been told about is meant to be is going to lie.
What? Biden? Everything we've been told about his mental acuity is gonna lie.
Somebody else to tell.
God.
Yeah, have to watch it. I wonder if that's why we've only got one person here.
Oh, they're all just enthralled.
Well, you know, it's a highly charged election anyway.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I'm just saying. So it's not surprising. It wouldn't be surprising if nobody showed up because they wanted to watch the debate. And it's going to go. This is my prediction: is that those that wanted Trump to do good are going to claim that Trump did good. Those that wanted Biden to do good are going to have to go someplace else. I mean, the fact checks are going to be epic.
Oh,
Yeah, as is usually the case, right? It doesn't matter. They're going to say that whoever they wanted to win the debate, they're going to say that they won the debate anyway. That's always the way it goes.
Sources, them saying we have a problem after Biden's performance.
What?
The breaking news headline on CNN right now.
Breaking news headline on CNN right now.
Sources, them saying we have a problem after Biden's performance tonight.
Sources saying, or what? Sources.
Them saying we have a problem
Them saying, quote unquote, we have a problem after
Biden's performance.
Biden's performance tonight.
They just changed sources. Aggressive panic for Dems.
Aggressive panic for Dems. It just changed. No, see, It's not the dead baby jokes that I love you for. It's that right there. Which I can't say on stream because we want to have a stream when we get back.
Maybe they'll back RFK Jr.
Whatever. I don't. I
need to see if the memes have started already.
I don't think there's anybody that's gonna make me change who I'm voting for. I don't think so. I think it would be very difficult.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, I have a feeling that the supposed fact checkers are going to have the last minutes.
Yeah,
Because
that's what Amanda was saying earlier.
you just know. I mean, what's funny is they'll ignore. I mean, one side will ignore Biden and do everything they can to twist anything Trump says. It's like, I don't really care how you want to do it, but just be consistent. Like, if you want to ignore whatever Biden says, when he makes up some claims or dubious claims, whatever, then you got to do the same thing for Trump. And if you are going to do it for Trump, then you got to do it for Biden, or you got to take them both to task. And real journalism would take them both to task, but nobody's really doing that.
Right.
I'm trying to watch a little bit of everything. That's why I watch a little bit of everything, so I can get perspective.
Yeah.
That was crappy. I'm going to see what the ruler is.
Wow.
My guess is that they pull Gavin Newsom, which I don't know why. Well, whatever. But
Because he swallowed never mind.
well, he's Nancy Pelosi's nephew, I think, isn't he?
Huh?
He's related to Nancy Pelosi.
Okay.
And governor of the most populous state. That could help. I saw a picture of Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton walking on the beach. And, she looked like something out of the island of Dr. Moreau. Like, she looked like Dr. Moreau from the island of Dr. Moreau. Like, he has the makeup on and the hat and trying to stay out of the sun. That's literally what she looked like. I could not help but think that. Well, I thought going into the debate that it was Trump's to lose. That's also what I thought about the last election too. So
Yeah, politics is a joke. And the more you look at it as a joke, the happier you'll be.
oh gosh, you gotta love the Babylon Bee. They already have out Trump indicted for murdering elderly man on CNN. Ouch. Uh, aggressive panic for Dems after Biden's performance. I had seen earlier today a bingo card for tonight for the debate. And I thought, man, if you turned that into a drinking game, there'd be some dead people. It's just, which I haven't seen the debate. Maybe you'd stay sober, but I have a feeling too many of those things would probably pick up. Ooh, that's an interesting one. Why is Trump destroying Biden in this debate? Because Trump is speaking to the American people and Biden is speaking to Trump. crazy, crazy, crazy.
Huh?
Just, I was looking at some of the stuff people are printing.
Well, it's not quite 2 panels, but
Okay. She, like, I don't know if you were drawing, so I didn't notice, but I covered myself up, made her bigger, and brought her over to my big screen because I was like, I couldn't see her mouth on the right hand, but when I blew it up, it's fine. Yeah.
that's all mouth. Everything
Right.
the way knows. It's teeth.
It was just too small on my other screen. I couldn't. It just looked gray. So this is better.
Right. Well, it is small because I have to fit them in the panel. So.
Well, yeah, but it's also on a monitor under a glass desk. I mean, there's lots of reasons.
Oh.
All right.
Yeah. So I guess I'm gonna call that for the night. Like that's not a finished panel. It's pretty much a rough layout, but I've got to do the evening out and all that stuff. That panel is pretty good. That panel is a good start. So that's a third of the page kind of laid out, and one of them finished pencils, and one of them about a third of the way finished pencils. The other ones are, I think, will be a little bit easier. Definitely coming to that spot. All right. Won't be all that long before double page spreads coming up.
Sweet.
All right, so everyone that watched while the presidential debate's on and all the other stuff that's happening in the world, anyone that liked, subscribed, followed, thank you. Chris, thank you for commenting. Good night. God bless. Much love.
So.